It has come to my attention that some of the prison sentences in your CeMAP 1 exam, the answers have recently changed in the 2024 to 2025 textbook update. And I know there's quite a lot of my older material that's still floating around, so I wanted to make sure that we had this one nailed down so nobody misses marks on their exam. The first thing that I'm going to say is you are going to get a lot of prison sentence questions in your exam. Some students report getting 3 to 5 questions in Unit 2. Now, guys, that is 10% of the overall grade. So it's really important that you've got this down. The other thing that I want to say is to remember that all of the prison sentences will come with so many years in prison and / or an unlimited fine. And this is for all of them. So as long as you can remember that, that helps with 50% of the questions that's in there, because sometimes they can ask, is it a prison sentence? Is it a fine? Or is it both? For all of them, it's always both. The first one that we need to recap, this hasn't changed from last year, is the crime to do with if a partner or director is found guilty of failing to comply with money laundering legislation. That's the first one. And the key to remembering this one is it mentions 2 potential people, partner and director. They will always be mentioned in this. 2 people, 2 years in prison. That one's nice and easy. Another one that is 2 years in prison is if you were to recklessly make a statement in the context of money laundering. What does that mean? In my words, I would say you are shit talking money laundering. And the way that you're going to remember this one is because you are giving it 2 fingers, it is 2 years in prison. So recklessly making a statement in the context of money laundering, 2 fingers, 2 years in prison. That hasn't changed from last year either. The one that has changed from last year was tipping off. So tipping off is the idea of you notifying somebody else, it might be a friend, it might be a colleague, it might be a customer, that they are being investigated for money laundering. And the example that I used to give to remember this one is if you imagine you worked across a bay of desks from your best friend in the same industry in financial services, and you caught wind from a few rows behind that the police were on their way to talk to them. Now, what you shouldn't do, but you might want to do, is tip them off that the police are on the way. So what you might do is you might just raise one hand like this to get their attention. Now, what I used to do is we used to raise a hand like this, and the trick was 5 years in prison. It isn't 5 years in prison anymore, guys. It's 2 years in prison. So what you're going to do is you're just going to lift 2 fingers over the bay of desks to be like, can you see me? I'm trying to be subtle. Can you not see me? Tipping off, 2 years in prison. Equally, if you remember the 2 T's, tipping off, 2 years. That is the big change. The next one up is to do with the senior managers. So there is a crime to do with if a senior manager is found guilty of something. And they can phrase this one in a couple of different ways. But the trick is it will always say senior managers. It's 7 years in prison. So you're going to match the S's with this one. You're going to say senior managers, 7 years. And again, for all of the ones that we've been through, please remember it is 7 years in prison and / or an unlimited fine. And then the last 2, one is called bribery. If you are found guilty of bribing somebody. Now, the act of bribing someone is where you are going to give somebody something in exchange for doing something for you. So the example that most people give is, I am going to pay you money to do this thing that's technically illegal, but I don't want to take the rap for it. And actually, that process of giving them the money is what I need you to imagine. So I want you to imagine either like a suitcase of cash, you're going to hold the handle, or like one of those Hessian sacks of money that they used to have in all the cowboy films. And you're literally going to hand them over the money, dump it on the table. You need 2 hands for all that money that you're going to bribe them with. It's 10 years in prison for bribery. And then the last one is the trickiest one because they phrase it in so many different ways. So the actual phrase is if somebody is found guilty of acquiring, concealing, or arranging the proceeds of money laundering. The difficulty that we have is sometimes in your exam, they can just ask about inquiring, or they can just ask about concealing, or just ask about arranging, or they can combine all 3. The trick with this is the answer is the same regardless. So if it has those 3 words in, acquiring, concealing, or arranging. It is the longest sentence that we have spoken about. It is 14 years in prison. Unfortunately, I don't have a handy hat because I don't have 14 fingers to remind you of that one, but just think that it's the longest one that you will see written down on paper. And again, remember that it's 14 years in prison and or an unlimited fine. And guys, this will be in effect immediately in your exams. So make sure you remember these, make sure you write them down, especially if you're one of the ones that gets 5 questions on it. Super good luck.